Bang, Rowan, I couldn't do that at 27. No nonsense, straight to the point, courage, detail.
It finally happened. The lawsuit that the media elites thought would quietly disappear just exploded into the biggest courtroom disaster in television history. Karoline Leavitt didn't just win a case. She launched a tidal wave that wiped out everything in its path. ABC and The View are now facing a financial collapse that insiders are calling a slow-motion implosion. That $800 million ruling wasn't just painful, it was fatal. The courtroom verdict hit with the force of a wrecking ball, shaking the foundations of daytime television to its core. This wasn't just about legal damages, it was about vengeance, justice, and truth, finally catching up to those who thought they were untouchable. Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin. They used to laugh on air. Now they're hiding from reporters and dodging court summonses. ABC is on fire, financially, publicly, and morally. This network, once the crown jewel of daytime chatter, is now bleeding money and scrambling to hold on to what little credibility it has left. One insider said, "It's not just a loss, it's a collapse." The second the verdict was announced, the tremor didn't stay in the courtroom. It hit Wall Street like a bomb. ABC's parent company saw its stock drop so fast that traders thought their monitors were broken. Millions of dollars were lost before noon. In a matter of hours, ad sponsors began pulling out. Fast and loud. Companies that once proudly advertised during The View yanked their deals without hesitation.
And I'm they're taking
I'll relive
just
it.
themselves.
Turn on the television, girl.
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
I'm leaving y'all.
I just leave. I go home. I go home to my life, and I take care of my cat and do all the stuff I'm supposed to.
One brand rep was overheard saying, "We don't want to be anywhere near that sinking ship." This wasn't a scandal. It was a financial hurricane. Internal emails leaked, showing emergency meetings, frantic calls, and terrified executives trying to stop a total meltdown. But it was too late. The damage was already done. There was no insurance safety net to cover this disaster. ABC's policy had an exception for intentional defamation. And that's exactly what the court ruled happened to Karoline Leavitt. No backup plan, no parachute, no mercy. The courtroom wasn't quiet when the judgment was read. It was electric. Even the jurors looked stunned by the size of the verdict. And Karoline? She didn't gloat. She stood calm, composed, and powerful, like she knew this moment was coming all along. While her legal team toasted in private with coffee mugs raised high, chaos was erupting inside ABC headquarters. Executives slammed desks, shredded papers, and shouted over one another as they realized the full scale of the financial nightmare ahead. The View's lavish production budget? Gone. Fancy catered lunches, replaced by cold sandwiches and vending machine snacks. Staff perks evaporated as the network slashed costs to survive. The glamour was officially dead. What made it worse, much worse, was what came next.
There is so much good news, so much winning out of the Trump White House right now that the mainstream legacy media can't keep up with it.
ABC's legal team didn't just lose in court. They were humiliated by the evidence Karoline's team brought forward. It wasn't just one bad segment. It was a campaign of cruelty caught on camera and in writing. Slack messages showed hosts mocking Karoline between segments. Producer notes revealed instructions to go harder on her. It was a coordinated smear, and the jury saw right through it. The most damaging moment came from a leaked video backstage. Joy Behar, laughing with a producer, sipped her coffee and smirked. "Let's see her sue us for that." The courtroom fell silent when that clip played. One juror whispered, "That's just cold." Joy's arrogance became the final nail in the coffin. Her smug remark, meant to intimidate, backfired so hard it blew up the entire defense. The jury didn't just see carelessness, they saw intent. This case shattered any illusion that The View was just entertainment. It revealed the ugly machinery behind the scenes, the scripts, the targeting, the cruelty. And the public? They were outraged. Karoline didn't need a press tour. She didn't need viral videos. She let the facts speak for her, and they roared. Her silence was more powerful than any headline. She didn't just beat them, she exposed them. Meanwhile, ABC's top executives were now whispering words no network ever wants to hear. Bankruptcy. One HR employee even texted her friend, "They're murmuring Chapter 11. The panic was no longer contained. It was flooding every department. Hiring freezes, budget cuts, canceled shows. ABC was bleeding out fast. Even Disney, ABC's parent company, was said to be in full damage control mode. Executives were already talking about liquidating daytime TV operations altogether. And Karoline? She watched it all quietly, like a storm that had already passed, leaving behind only wreckage and a warning. Her victory wasn't just personal, it was a turning point in media history. While Karoline remained silent, the media frenzy intensified.
So Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the role.
Reporters camped outside ABC's studios, desperate for a glimpse of the hosts who once ruled the screen, but now couldn't even face the cameras. One journalist said, "It's like watching royalty fall, and fast." Inside ABC, it was worse than chaos. It was collapse in real time. Department heads were called into emergency meetings that lasted for hours, only to walk out pale and shaken. The energy was grim. One producer reportedly muttered, "This is the end." Whoopi Goldberg, once the dominant voice of The View, hired a top-tier crisis management firm, the same kind used by disgraced CEOs and politicians caught in scandals. That move alone signaled just how deep the damage ran. Joy Behar? She stopped showing up altogether. No calls, no texts, no responses. She vanished like a ghost. A crew member was overheard saying she ghosted her own disaster. That joke landed heavy because no one was laughing anymore. Sunny Hostin, known for her legal experience, broke down in a closed-door meeting. According to insiders, she cried when she learned they might be held personally responsible for part of the $800 million judgment. This wasn't a joke. It was a financial death sentence. Behind the scenes, lawyers handed folders to the co-hosts, evidence, warnings, and reminders of what the court had ruled. The message was chilling. This may follow you for the rest of your life. No makeup room, no producer could fix this. One insider revealed that Joy and Whoopi were told directly, "You are now liabilities." That sentence hit like a wrecking ball. These women weren't just losing a job, they were losing everything they'd built on daytime TV. And then, the final dagger, ABC's own internal poll, buried months ago, was leaked. It showed exactly what would happen if the segment attacking Karoline went too far. Executives ignored it. Now that buried document is being used in new lawsuits from shareholders. That's right, shareholders are now suing ABC for negligence, claiming the network ignored all warning signs and exposed itself to destruction.
If you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on. And on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
The boardroom, once full of confidence and back-patting, was now filled with legal threats and slammed fists. One executive was so furious he reportedly yelled, "I told you not to greenlight that segment," and stormed out of a meeting. The blame game had officially begun, but it couldn't undo the damage already done. Then came the second viral blow. Another video clip detonated online. It showed Joy again, this time post-show, sipping wine and smirking, "Let's see her sue us for that." Within minutes, it had over 2 million views, and hashtags exploded across social media. Joy be wrecked, Whoopi down, and Sunny side gone trended for hours. It wasn't just a bad day. It was a public relations nightmare that no apology could fix. The internet doesn't forget, and this time it was unforgiving. Sponsors ran faster than ever. One major automaker announced a full reevaluation of all daytime marketing partnerships. Syndication deals were frozen overnight. ABC's Golden Goose had turned into a toxic brand. And the most brutal twist of all? Disney executives began preparing for full collapse. One senior manager allegedly said, "If bankruptcy hits, the entire daytime division is finished." Not rebranded, not paused, finished. Even as ABC tried to salvage what was left with a shallow apology, Karoline's legal team stayed silent. No reply, no settlement talk, no interest, because the damage was already complete, and there was nothing left to negotiate. The View wasn't trending because of some celebrity guest or political soundbite. It was trending because it had become the symbol of arrogance, carelessness, and unchecked media power finally being held accountable. What began as a single legal filing turned into a cultural earthquake. Newsrooms across the country held emergency calls, because if this could happen to The View, it could happen to anyone. NBC, CBS, even CNN began combing through old footage, terrified of what might be waiting in their archives. One streaming executive told reporters, "We're treating every unscripted segment like a lawsuit waiting to happen." TikTok dubbed it the talk show takedown. YouTube flooded with deep dives. Influencers posted clips calling it the end of the media's free ride. Suddenly, every host on every network had one warning burned into their contract: don't become The View. And through all the noise, Karoline never changed her tone. No shouting, no viral outbursts, just calm, steady focus. Her weapon wasn't volume, it was precision. Her victory wasn't just earned, it was unstoppable. As the dust settled over ABC's collapsing empire, every producer, executive, and host in the industry was forced to take a hard look at the new reality. Karoline Leavitt had done what no one thought was possible. She broke the machine from the inside out. The media had spent years mocking, minimizing, and marginalizing voices like hers. They dismissed her as too young, too conservative, too quiet to matter. But now, she was the one rewriting the rules, and she didn't need a microphone to do it. No one at The View saw it coming.
I'll relive it themselves.
Turn on the television, girl.
Where are you going? Where are you going?
I'm leaving y'all.
I just leave. I go home. I go home to my life, and I take care of my cat and do all the stuff I'm supposed to.
Not like this. The very people who once smirked at her, who rolled their eyes and cracked jokes on national television, now face the kind of consequences usually reserved for billion-dollar scandals. Karoline's victory wasn't loud. It was devastating. She didn't rant. She didn't threaten. She presented evidence. She told the truth. And she let the courtroom do the rest. And in doing so, she reminded America that silence is sometimes the loudest weapon of all. Executives from other networks started scrambling. Legal teams were hired overnight. Contracts were rewritten. One showrunner reportedly said, "From now on, we treat every guest like they're holding a grenade." Suddenly, media giants were no longer laughing. They were lawyering up. The arrogance that had once ruled daytime TV was gone, replaced by fear, by shame, and by a desperate rush to cover their own tracks before the next takedown arrived. Meanwhile, Karoline didn't celebrate with a press tour or flashy interviews. She simply returned to her work, focused, calm, and unapologetic. Her silence now echoed louder than 1,000 viral headlines. Audiences everywhere cheered. Viewers who had once felt ignored or silenced finally saw someone stand up and win, not with drama, but with dignity. Karoline didn't just speak for herself. She represented every person who had ever been mocked for daring to think differently. And The View? Once the queen of midday ratings? It was now nothing more than a warning sign, proof that unchecked arrogance and groupthink could be defeated in court and in public opinion. One by one, the show's producers resigned. Interns were laid off. The studio where once laughter echoed now sat quiet, dim, and abandoned. The show wasn't just canceled, it was buried under the weight of its own hubris. The financial hole was deeper than anyone could patch. ABC's lawyers admitted privately there was no path to recovery. The network, once proud of its influence, was now begging to survive, even as its name became synonymous with disgrace. Even longtime viewers began turning away, saying, "They did this to themselves." Hashtags like "The View canceled," Media reckoning and Leavitt victory became symbols of the new media awakening.
The most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
Influencers posted reaction videos declaring Karoline the conservative AOC, except smarter, quieter, and way more dangerous. Comment sections lit up with praise, shock, and hope that maybe, just maybe, the old media empires were finally being held accountable. The fear inside every newsroom grew louder. If this could happen to ABC, what other secrets could be exposed? What other lawsuits might be waiting in the wings? Suddenly, the media's favorite sport, mocking outsiders, came with $1 billion risk. And to think all of this started with a single segment, a single smirk, a single insult, a single attempt to humiliate someone on live TV. One bad move became the beginning of the end for The View. Karoline didn't play their game. She flipped the board over. While the hosts laughed, she documented. While they dismissed her, she prepared. And when the time came, she hit back, not with noise, but with nuclear evidence. This wasn't just about a verdict, it was a reckoning. For too long, media elites operated without fear of consequences. But now, that era was over. The age of arrogance had met its match, and her name was Karoline Leavitt. The $800 million judgment wasn't just money, it was a message to every network that truth matters. Slander has a cost, and no platform is too big to fall. The media empire once thought invincible had collapsed in a matter of weeks, all because one woman refused to stay silent. That's not just a courtroom win, that's a cultural reset. And as the cameras dim, the studio goes dark, and the echo of forced laughter fades into silence. One thing is now crystal clear. Karoline Leavitt didn't just win a lawsuit. She made history.